So in the previous lessons, we went over the quadratic form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And we went over how to do factoring with completing the square, the pattern, the x method, and everything. Now we're going to do quadratic formulas where we have to solve for x. However, we can't solve by factoring. So let's go over, so I'm going to go over all the problems on lesson 12a. And also, quadratic formula, you always want to make sure it equals 0. So sometimes you have to rewrite before you do the problem. So first let me go over the quadratic formula. X equals opposite b plus and minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So so the reason why I'm saying is that negative b, opposite b, just to remind myself, for the b, I'm taking the opposite of it. That's what negative b means. It means you're taking the opposite of what b is. So if b is positive, you make it negative. If it's negative, you make it positive. Plus and minus, we're going to plug in values for b. So we're going to square b. We're going to plug in values for a and c and multiply it to 4. And when it says 2a, we do whatever a is, it's going to be multiplied to 2. There was a song I learned when I had to memorize this quadratic formula, so I'm going to do it here. X equals opposite b plus and minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And thanks to that song, I am never, ever going to forget this formula, ever. All right, let's go over the first problem. We have x squared plus 6x plus 2 equals 0. So a is 1. Remember, if no number's there, it's assumed to be a 1. B is 6. C is 2. All right, let's go ahead and follow the formula. So x equals opposite b plus and minus radical b squared. I like to put parentheses, so b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It helps to put parentheses so I know I have to plug in values, and when I'm plugging in values, like here, if I plug a value here, I need to square it. If I plug in values here, it's multiplication, and here's also multiplication. So, all right, so b squared, b is 6. All right, a and c, so a goes here, a and c, and then a is 1 right here. All right, so when I work this out, watch how I do this, so I'm saving time here. So if x equals negative 6 plus and minus, I'm going to work only inside the radical here. Like, I'm not going to put all of this into the calculator. Watch how I do it. 2 times 1 is 2. So, in the calculator, work inside the radical, we have, I love about the calculator, it'll just put everything the way you need it. Like, you can put the parentheses, so 6 squared minus 4ac, we get 28. All right, so can we take the square root of 28? Is there a number we can square to get 28? No. So I can actually leave the answer this way. So when it says x squared, that means we have two different answers. So x equals, watch what the plus and minus means. Negative 6 plus square root of 28 over 2. Or x also equals negative 6 minus square root of 28 over 2. All right, let's go ahead and do the next one. Keep that quadratic formula in front of you. We have x squared minus 5x plus 4 equals 0. A equals 1, b equals negative 5, c equals 4. All right, let's go ahead and do the formula. So x equals opposite b plus and minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. 2 times 1 here, 2a, so 2 times 1. All right, here we go. So x equals 5 plus and minus, work inside the radical, and then 2 times 1 is 2. So if I put this in the calculator, what's in the radical? Negative 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4, I get 9. Now this time I actually can take the square root of what's in square root of this number. Square root of 9 is 3. So watch how I separate this. So do it off to the side here. All right, so x equals 5 plus what's square root of 9? 3. Divide by 2. And then x equals 5 minus 3 divided by 2. So you do the plus and minus thing. All right, so we work on the top. 5 plus 3 is 8. And then 2 is on the bottom. 8 top divided by bottom. So 8 divided by 2 equals 4. Work on the top. 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So x equals 4 and x equals 1. All right, let's go ahead and do the next problems. All right, so number 4, actually number 3, we have 3x squared plus 7x minus 1 equals 0. All right, so a equals 3, b equals 7, c equals negative 1. So x equals opposite b, so negative 7 plus and minus radical b squared. 7 squared minus 4, a, c, all over 2 times 3, 2a. So x equals, we bring down the negative 7, the plus and minus, the radical, and then 2 times 3 is 6. Let's go and put this all in the calculator. 7 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 1 is 61, and we certainly cannot take the square root of 61. So with the plus and minus, when you start to get the hang of it, if you can understand negative 7 plus square root of 61 over 6, and negative 7 minus square root of 66 is your two values of x, you can just leave it that way. Just make sure you can't take the square root of the number. If you can't take the square root of the number, you can just leave it that way. All right, let's do number 4. Now, number 4 is one of those where I'm saying you need to rewrite it. So we have a squared minus 10a equals 11. So what's important is the problem needs to equal 0. You have a letter squared, then a letter, then a number. So this, I'm going to do the opposite of 11, which is minus 11, which you do to one side, do to the other. I get a squared minus 10a minus 11 equals 0. Now I can do my quadratic formula. So a equals 1, b equals negative 10, c equals negative 11. So common mistake some make would just say c is 11, but no, it's negative 11. Make sure it's the opposite if it's on the other side of the equal sign. When you move it, you've got to be the opposite. So we have x equals opposite b plus and minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so boom, boom, boom. Work inside. So negative 10 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 11 is 144. And then 2 times 1 is 2. All right, we can take the square root of 144. It's 12. So x equals 10 plus 12 divided by 2, and then x equals 10 minus 12 divided by 2. Work on the top. 10 plus 12 is 22. For some reason I was thinking I had to regroup for there. All right, 22 divided by 2 is 11. So x equals 11. What's my other x? What's my other value? What's my other value? Well, 10 minus 12 is negative 2 divided by 2. Negative 2 divided by 2, negative 1. And it's done. All right, so make sure if you can take square root of the number, you got to separate it this way. You can't leave it this way. All right, next one. Ooh, this one's tough. Whoop. All right. Number 5. We have 2q squared plus 2 equals 17q. All right, it doesn't equal 0, so I need to move this. Remember, it goes letter squared, letter, then number. So doing the opposite of 17q, and that's going in the middle between these two. That's why I'm putting it like that. So I have instead 2q squared minus 17q equal plus 2 equals 0. A equals 2, B equals negative 17, C equals positive 2. All right, let's work it out. X equals opposite B plus and minus radical B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So we have 17 plus and minus, working the radical, 2 times 2 is 4. All right, are we going to get something we can square root? Let's see. Negative 17 squared minus 4. All right, it says 273. I doubt it can. I'm very sure it cannot be a square root. See, definitely not a square root if you get a long decimal. If you get a decimal. So I'm just gonna leave it there. All right, and because I can't take the square root of 273, I can just leave it that way. X equals 17 plus square root of 273 over 4, and then x equals 17 minus square root of 273 divided by 4. Next one. All right, so 5 more problems. Here we go. Number 6. We got 5x squared plus 15x plus 10 equals 0. All right, A equals 5, B equals 15, C equals 10. Here we go. X equals opposite B plus and minus radical B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So we have negative 15 plus and minus whatever's in the radical, and then 2 times 5 is 10. All right, can we take the square root? $25. Oh yes, we can take the square root of 25. Here we go. So we're going to have x equals negative. We're going to have negative 15 plus 5 over 10, and then x also is going to equal negative 15 minus 5 over 10. So if we do negative 5 plus 5, that's negative 10 divided by 10. Negative 10 divided by 10 is negative 1. Negative 5 minus 5 is negative 20. Negative 20 divided by 10 is negative 2. So x equals negative 1 and x equals negative 2. All right, next one, we got a fraction. That's not too bad. When you have a calculator, it's not too bad. Alright, so let's do number 7. We have 1/4 r squared minus 1/2 r plus 3/2 equals 0. Alright, so you can see A is 1/4, B is negative 1/2, and then C is 3/2. Here we go. X equals opposite B, so 1/2 plus and minus radical B squared. Negative 1/2 squared minus 4AC all over 2 times 1/4. Oh, doesn't that look like a fun problem? Alright, so we have x equals 1/2 plus and minus the radical, then 2 times 1/4 is going to be 1/2. Alright, let's see what happens with this fraction. Negative 1/2 squared minus 4. 1 divided by 4. 3 divided by 2. Let's change it into a fraction. Negative 5/4. And we definitely cannot take, the square root of this number, so we're going to leave it alone. I mean, I could go more and simplify this more, but I'm not worried about that. This is fine. Alright, number 8, we have 16x squared equals 2x plus 4. Alright, so this does not equal 0. So I got to move all of these. I got to do the opposite of this one. And I got to do the opposite of this one. So what am I going to have instead? I'm going to have 16x squared minus 2x minus 4 equals 0. Letter squared, letter, and then number. A equals 16, B equals negative 2, C equals negative 4. Opposite B, so minus radical B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Oh, this one's going to be interesting. Alright, so here we have 2 plus and minus, whatever is the square root, and then 2 times 16 is 32. Let's see what we can do in the radical. Okay, we get 260. Alright, can we take the square root of 260? I doubt it. Yep, nope. Alright, we'll just leave it that way. Alright, so number 9 and then number 10. Here we go. Alright, so number 9, we have 2x squared plus 3x minus 8 equals 0. A equals 2, B equals 3, C equals negative 8. X equals opposite B. Plus and minus radical B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Alright, x equals negative 3 plus and minus whatever's in the radical, and then 2 times 2 is 4. Let's go put that in the calculator. Alright, so we have 3 squared minus 4AC. So we get 73. We certainly cannot take the square root of 73, so it's done. Alright, last one. We have y squared equals 3/4 y plus 2. Alright, doesn't equal 0. So I got to do the opposite of all of these to get it to the other side of the equal sign. So minus 3/4 y minus 2. So instead, I have y squared minus 3/4 y minus 2 equals 0. So a equals 1, b equals negative 3/4, c equals negative 2. Here we go. X equals opposite b plus and minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we're going to keep the 3/4 plus and minus, and then the 2. Alright, negative 3/4 squared. Make sure you include the negative there. Minus 4. 1 times negative 2. Let's say change it to a fraction. Okay. 137 over 16. And there is no way you can take the square root of that. I'll be surprised. Let's see here. Yeah, you definitely can't take the square root of that. So, yeah, let's just leave it like this. We'll just leave it like this for now. Alright, so quadratic formula. Make sure both on the right side equal sign equals 0. Everything else is on the other side equal sign. Make sure you have a letter squared, a letter, then a number. And make sure to plug your values in right away. X equals opposite b plus and minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Think you remember that formula?